One more thing before we head to the cookies outside. They're getting baked as we speak. Everyone knows we are celebrating 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. Our students, hopefully, all of them know about the same year's famous book being published, The Wealth of Nations. Adam Smith, Barbara Cohn referred to this source. And since we are part of the Free Market Roadshow, we also give credit to Hayek's book, The Constitution of Liberty, published 66 years ago. I have one more anniversary to mark today, and maybe some of you have figured it out from the title. It's about the American and the European constitutions, and I picked as the title, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's a movie 60 years ago. Maybe this will bring back some memories, at least for the people of my generation in the room. Okay, I'll play a bit more when it's appropriate later. Starting with Hayek. The Free Market Roadshow is a product of the Austrian Economic Center and the Hayek Institute in Vienna. Barbara Cohn leads both of these institutions. Thank you so much for being with us, fourth year in a row. After stopping in places like Washington, D.C. and Dallas and Houston and all the European capitals, they make a stop here in Midland, Michigan for us. At the heart of Hayek's book, The Constitution of Liberty, lies a fundamental insight which I believe every economics course should be teaching. It's about liberty. Liberty as the highest ideal. Sometimes I tell my students, if I had to choose between capitalism and socialism, and it so happened that socialism generates more prosperity, which it doesn't. But even if it did, I would still choose capitalism because capitalism gives us liberty. Liberty is a moral imperative. It is the reason why socialism doesn't deliver more prosperity is because liberty is also a precondition for productive coordination in a world of dispersed knowledge, something that Hayek spent so many years teaching us about. What is freedom? Hayek defines freedom as the absence of coercion. It is a condition in which individuals are not subject to the arbitrary will of others. Interpersonal aggressions, such as acts of domestic violence, street gangs, mob violence, all these are bad enough. Some people today even think of words as violence. If you don't indulge in their fantasies, they think you're a violent individual who needs to be imprisoned or at least fired from his job. The main concern today, however, is the systematic coercion by institutionalized by institutions like the state, the law, state rules, state interventions. Both Barbara and Mike talked today about those. By definition, as you know, you study economics and philosophy at Northwood. You read our collection of essays when we are free, and you know that politics by definition is force. It prevents voluntary exchanges. It disrupts social harmony. It distorts, in economics, it distorts crucial information, which is revealed through market prices. Where there is compulsion, people act based on fear. As a result, real preferences cannot be revealed. The system loses its capacity to coordinate individual plans, and outcomes become suboptimal at best. What did Hayek suggest? Well, Hayek talked about developing a legal framework based on what libertarians would recognize as the non-aggression principle, which constrains coercion by both individuals and the state. How should it do so? Well, Hayek once again counseled it should be based on general, predictable, and impartially applied rules. Today I will look at two constitutions as promised. As we celebrate America's 250th anniversary, I will put Hayek's bifocals, you have to imagine me putting those now, to compare the Constitution of the United States to the proposed but rejected in the French and Dutch referendums of 2005 Constitution of the European Union. Like most boys of my generation, I grew up with Westerns. And I'm sure that some of you, at least here, have seen your fair share of such Hollywood productions. Well, under socialism, where I grew up in Bulgaria, we were not treated to too many American films. So many of those Westerns that I refer to, that I watched as a kid, they came from Berlin. Berlin as in Germany. Yeah, it was hilarious to observe the Germans pretending to be cowboys and Indians. Some of those movies came from Italy, and we call them spaghetti westerns. The expression is still known today. Those were much better than the East German entertainment. My favorite, Sergio Leone's film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Well, it came out 60 years ago, and it somehow made its way to the Bulgarian movie theaters about a decade later. I think I remember watching it in my first summer break between first and second grade. 50 years later, I still whistle sometimes the iconic theme composed by Ennio Morricone, which you're listening to right now. Some of you are whistling. So I have split my short presentation today into three parts: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let me start with what I find in the European Union's proposal that is as good as, and perhaps even better in some ways, to our constitution that has lasted for such a long time. Starting with the good. Here are a few things that I found in the proposal that was rejected back in 2005. The Constitution talks about freedom of occupation. Well, I asked a question about licensing. Well, will that proposal, if ever adopted, will it have the teeth to actually allow individuals to practice their occupations without the need to jump through hoops? I don't know, but it sounds great. The freedom of occupation. Here is something that people in America have been working on for quite some time. Members of Parliament, it says here, shall not serve more than 4 full terms. All my students, some of them are here in this classroom, produced videos for John Stossel as a graded assignment on term limits, right? I hope some of you wins the contest this year. This is something that we definitely need in the United States. According to the proposal for the European Constitution, senators shall not serve more than 3 full terms. We have American senators who live who work in the Senate until they die. And in some cases, they are not fully capable of discharging their duties before they do so. Politician is not an occupation. People should serve their fellow Americans or Europeans for a time and then do something productive in the private sector. Other good things which I found in the European proposal: 2 senators for each member state. Well, we have that here in the United States. It preserves the national sovereignty. Half of the Senate may be elected, according to the European proposal, every 3 years. Another good proposal, again, modeled after the American political system. What is good about it? Well, unlike many national elections, where you can have huge swings according to popular feelings, this prevents the supranational government in Europe, as it does for our federal government. In America, we avoid those swings due to mob feelings. Another interesting proposal, the drawing of districts shall be done, they say, in a fair manner, not for political gain. Again, my students here have read an article that I published in the fall on gerrymandering. It's a big problem. It's not a partisan issue. Whoever controls a state is trying to redraw the districts in such a way that they would gain a few extra seats in the next election. This is something that really messes up the whole system. It disenfranchises huge chunks of the population. You can redraw the districts in such a way that even if you have 40% of the people supporting one party, they will have zero representation. And the European Union has a proposal, not specified how, but it's the right thing to do. Political advantages should not be pursued as you decide how those districts are drawn on the map. No member, says the European proposal, no member shall be expelled based on his opinion alone. Now, this sounds great. We have the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, and it sounds obvious, but I would like to ask you, how about the problems which Barbara outlined of people who come from cultures that are very different, in many ways hostile to the Western values that we share between America and the European countries. And those people come, they go through the legal process, they become citizens, but they don't discard the values that ruin their country, that force them to flee and to settle in Europe or to come to the United States. And at some point, they get elected and they might advocate for, well, let's say Sharia law. Should this be allowed? I'm not sure that freedom of speech is completely without any limits. If you're advocating for things which will ruin your society, well, I don't see that falling under the protected speech categories myself. Maybe I'm wrong. Members of Congress, it says, have the duty to vote. Well, of course, that's after all their job. We have in some of the parliaments in Europe, including in Bulgaria, where I grew up, people who get elected and they almost never show up. So if you have a job to discuss, to vote, to propose, well, that's what you should be doing. There is a problematic proposal in the Constitution for the European Union later about the individuals, the citizens, about them having to vote. I'll get to that later. Presidential veto, just as here in the United States, it says here it may be overturned with 3/5 of each house of Congress. Good. Checks and balances. This is what you should expect from a constitution that is designed to protect the rights of the citizens. Barbara talked about today the principle of subsidiarity. Again, something which the American Republic was founded on. Our federal government was never intended to possess the kinds of powers and discharge them on a daily basis that we see today. If the founding fathers could be brought to the year 2026 to observe what Congress is doing, what the president is doing, what all the agencies that somehow sprang up in the executive branch have been doing, and many of the decisions of the Supreme Court, they would be appalled. They would think that America has gone completely insane. Subsidiarity, says the proposal, shall be the cardinal value in the distribution of competencies between the federal, state, and local levels. You should never do anything at a higher level if it could be done at a lower one, closer to the people, where they see the problems, when they understand the ways that they can handle the issues. So Hayek, the American founding, that principle is at the core of a free society. No law, says the European proposal, no law varying the compensation of elected officials for their service shall take effect until after the following election of their respective seat. We should embrace this thing here in the United States. I just observed in the last elections, one party gains the majority after speaking at length about the affordability crisis, and then they come to power, and the first thing they do is double their salaries. So my classes, regardless of what I teach, usually starts with the question of incentives. People respond to incentives. We should not be giving those politicians the incentives to rob the taxpayer in this filthy way. Section 4 in the proposal for the European Constitution has something that I believe, and I'll end the good part of my presentation with this, because I think America needs this. I wish the founding fathers had included something along those lines. Of course, they were preoccupied with holding the union together. The 13 republics that bickered about all kinds of issues and even imposed tariffs against each other, which is why they included the Commerce Clause to help the federal government stop that kind of trade war. To keep the union together. Section 4 in the European proposal has the mechanisms for accession and secession from the union. Again, I wish that we could give the American people, the states, the same kind of flexibility, the same kind of freedom to secede from the union. We fought a war just because we did not recognize that right of several of the southern states. The issue of slavery completely apart, of course. They were on the wrong side with this, but they had the right, in my opinion, to secede. It was just not included in the Constitution, and fratricidal war was fought with hundreds of thousands of victims. What's bad about the proposal that I saw? Well, it mentions freedom of movement. Well, it sounds good once again. If you love freedom, you should approve of freedom of movement, right? Well, maybe not so quick. What about mutual consent? When you move from one part of the country or from another country and you come to live in another community, shouldn't that community be consulted? Shouldn't that community have the freedom to evaluate you and decide whether you should be allowed to come in and settle or close the door for you? That's a principle that needs to be taken into account. The right of asylum, connected to the previous one. What about the residents' right not to associate with people that may be, again, coming with values which are hostile to the shared values of this community? Does it not matter? Should it be decided by elitists at the national or even supranational level, by bureaucrats in Brussels? There is what the proposal also contains. Congress shall detail, and I'm listing a few things here, the modalities and limitations of campaign financing, limits on all campaign contributions. Does it sound like a reasonable proposal for free people? I myself don't think so. Money, after all, is the physical means through which we can exercise our right to free speech. Imagine if our government says, yeah, according to the Constitution, you can print anything you want. We are not going to limit your speech, but we are going to limit how much paper or ink you can use in order to print your flyers or to publish your articles in which magazines. This is the most effective way to stop free speech, to control how much money goes into the promotion of different ideas. Measures to promote gender balance in a federal electoral law. What do you think of that? A gender balance. Why? Why not evaluate the people not based on their gender or race or ethnicity or anything else, and only pay attention to their merit, their skills, their values, their accomplishments? I think a system of meritocracy is preferable to any imagined ideal distribution of seats between genders or races or ethnicities or any other criteria that is unrelated to the ability of these men and women to exercise their duties. Should the Senate fail to approve it, the proposal, another way to handle disagreements, according to the EU proposal, the Constitution rejected in 2005, should the Senate fail to approve it, the proposal may be considered approved by the legislature if Parliament adopts it with a 2/3 majority. I don't like this one. I think the founding fathers of the American Republic, when they wrote our Constitution, they imagined and they made it on purpose difficult, slow, in some cases impossible to change the law. Okay? Legislative gridlock is a good thing. I know that the media complains when the president leads an effort to change the law, to accomplish some great reform that may be desired by the majority at a point of time. And then the president complains, I didn't get enough votes. Trump failing by a single vote to repeal and replace Obamacare is one such case. I remember when Obama was president and complained all the time for 6 years in a row, Congress is not doing its job, they're not passing those laws. Well, I think that's exactly what the job of Congress is and what the parliament in Europe should be doing. And it shouldn't be made easy for both institutions, the legislative branches, to pass new laws. Legislative gridlock is a good thing. We want predictability, we want stability. This rule, the one proposed under the EU Constitution, it sacrifices the checks and balances for expediency. Here's another proposal: to issue money, regulate the value thereof, and adopt monetary policy through an independent central bank whose mandate shall include supporting employment, stabilizing prices, and moderating long-term interest rates. Well, for so many years, I've been giving to my students this example with the European Central Bank being better than the Federal Reserve. Why? Well, because they only had one job. Maybe they failed, and they did during COVID more recently, but for so many years, at least, they were not burdened with a dual mandate to try and balance somehow the unemployment issue with the inflation issue. The central bank should be focusing only on one of those. Let me go back to the uglies, the final portion here. All legislative powers, listen to the distinction between the two constitutions. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. Well, this is how the Europeans have written it down. All legislative powers shall be vested in a Congress of the European Union. You see what's missing? Herein granted. Okay? The difference is between enumerated versus plenary powers. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. The European Union says it shall guarantee to every state within it and to its citizens a democratic form of government. So that's a big difference. The difference between the rule of law, again, something that both speakers before me emphasized, and the rule of the majority. Very different principles, very different outcomes as a result of this. I see my time is almost up, so I'll submit the rest of my complaints about the EU proposal on the website later. 250 years ago, America started a revolution, guys, and its effects were profoundly good. We exported those ideas to the rest of the world, and I don't think we need another revolution. The private sector, the entrepreneurs are constantly revolutionizing the means of production and making life better. But we don't need any political revolutions. All we need is to believe in what we have, to appreciate its value, and to preserve its legacy. Reading Hayek's Constitution of Liberty can help along the way. It is a powerful reminder of what works and what doesn't. Freedom is not just a moral idea, as I started talking about. It is a practical solution to a complex world. Hayek once wrote, "The curious task of economics is to demonstrate to men how little they really know about what they imagine they can design." That's a lesson that all politicians, activists, and the media pundits today should be learning. What was Hayek's response? Liberty. Liberty is better. Liberty works. Liberty means respect for human dignity, creativity, and the knowledge that we can never centralize and control, something which Barbara made a central point in her presentation. 250 years ago, Adam Smith wrote the following: "The sovereign is completely discharged from the duty of superintending the industry of private people and of directing it towards the employment most suitable to the interest of the society." Both Smith and Hayek are telling us it is not the business of the sovereign to direct or create industry, but to preserve the freedom of all to pursue their own advantage. And we would be wise to listen. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. That was a wonderful presentation. Maybe another round of applause for our speakers, Barbara Cohn, Alex Tokarev. We'd like to invite you to join us for a reception that'll follow right out in the lobby. There are some drinks and refreshments out there. If you found any of this stuff interesting, I would also like to advertise the Freedom Seminar, which will be coming up in the fall. This fall, we're going to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of not only the Declaration, but the ideas kind of espoused within the Declaration. And so we hope you'll join us for some of those events. Faculty, staff, and students who are participating in pursuit of a NU Impact badge or a TNI badge, there are QR codes available throughout. And I'd like to thank the audience for coming. I hope you guys had a good time. Thanks a lot. Have an excellent evening. Get your notes to Dr. Tokarev, please.